Daily Exchange, guys. We're here with Ryan Taylor he was the CEO of Dash Core Group, I guess, is the way to go.
Yeah.
And we're talking all about privacy, the new investment fund, and a whole lot of other things. We'll see you guys in a sec. Back here with Ryan Taylor. Welcome to the Daily Exchange.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you. Now, with Dash, we've got some really interesting stuff coming up. You were talking about, we've got some new release around preventing 51% attacks. You want to tell us all about that?
Yeah, so as we've seen in the news lately, there have been some instances of 51% attacks on Bitcoin Gold, on Ethereum Classic, and it's becoming a real issue in the market, and we felt like it needed to be addressed. We are coming out with a release within the next couple of weeks. Our final release candidate is on testnet right now, and we're allowing some time for our partners to integrate and make sure that they're ready. But essentially what it does is it prevents any one miner from being able to control the network, even if you had 99% of the mining capacity. And the way that it works is the Dash Masternodes essentially vote on each new block that is found. So at each block height, the Masternode network validates that block, and once that block is validated, any other chain is invalid as far as the entire network is concerned. And so what that means is if you attempted a 51% attack, if you were mining in secret a longer chain, and a new block is published during that time, it invalidates your entire chain. You actually have no incentive whatsoever to not publish a block. And so it really adds a new level of security. And when you think about it, if a block can't be reorganized, there's no reason to wait for 6 block confirmations. It affects the user experience because an exchange or any other type of entity would have no reason to wait for 6 blocks. It's every bit as secure after 1 block confirmation. And that means no waiting. We already have instant send, and so transactions already occur within 1 to 2 seconds, but even if that feature is not utilized for a particular transaction, a chain lock offers that level of security that allows the transaction to go through right away.
We saw recently that with the Binance hack, there was this talk again about this reorganization of paying miners with Bitcoin. Did this spur this on? Is this one of the reasons why you guys looked at this?
Well, obviously we've been working on this for a long time.
Right.
We started on this project back in the fall before it was even really an issue. We saw an opportunity. Because when you think about it, as blocks come in and a transaction becomes more and more secure, there isn't much room for making a transaction more secure after 6 blocks, right? It's highly secure after 6 blocks on Bitcoin's network. And closing that gap becomes infinitely expensive. Where the opportunity lies is providing more certainty earlier in the process. And so that's where we were focusing our effort to improve the user experience. It just so happened that after we started working on these things, we had all these 51% attacks, and then the Binance thing is just very timely to raise this as, this is important, this is needed in this industry, and so it's a feature we're very proud of to be rolling out.
Now, Dash is obviously one of the top coins in the market, and a lot of people are very passionate about its Masternodes and what it can do as well. Tell us, what's coming up with Masternodes.
Right, so after this release that we're talking about is our version 1.0 release. It's also known as our Evolution release.
Evolution.
And what's coming with the Evolution is really exciting. We're introducing a bunch of new features. One of them is usernames. That will allow you to create a username for yourself within the Masternode layer of the network. You can store data associated with your username, like your shipping address, your phone number, your email address, things you need to transact with businesses. And you can also create contact lists. So the way that payments work today with most cryptocurrencies is I have to share an address with you, usually over email or over a text or through some other mechanism outside of the network. And that's actually insecure. You have to call me and verify the address that you're sending to if you're sending a large amount, as an example. With usernames, I will be able to pay to your username within the network, and I won't have to re-verify an address every time I want to make a payment to you. So again, creating that better user experience, and cryptographic addresses are scary for a lot of people, right? You introduce people to cryptocurrencies that have never seen it before, and that's a new concept for them.
Well, you talked about two things now about user experience, right? So this, faster payments and waiting for exchanges, because obviously that's going to speed things up. It's going to mean, more ability to become, actually a means of, I guess, currency to some extent. You're talking about now, obviously having a verification of addresses and things like that. Are you guys focused very much on mainstream adoption? Is that where Dash is trying to go?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, and we have a strategy around this that takes advantage of what cryptocurrency does well within the payment space and what Dash in particular does well because of its speed and low cost of transactions. And I won't go through all 5 of them because it would take a little while, but I'll give you a couple of examples. One of them is high inflation markets, and in particular we're focused on Venezuela right now. Dash is actually used more often at the point of sale in Venezuela than Bitcoin and Litecoin combined. We know this because the payment processors that utilize Dash are seeing more transactions with Dash. We have local teams on the ground that are servicing merchants, signing merchants up, out pounding pavement, and providing services in order to build the ecosystem there. As a consequence, we have 2,000 to 3,000 merchants in Venezuela that are accepting Dash, every merchant type you can imagine. And we're arming consumers with the tools necessary to use it. An example of a partnership we have is with Crypto Mobile, a phone manufacturer. They sell phones into Venezuela. We partner with them, and the phones ship with a Dash ecosystem included, and they've shipped over 100,000 units. And so it's that type of incentivized adoption push that it takes to really get an ecosystem going in a concentrated enough way to really get traction. And they are seeing, in some of the payment processors I've been working with, they're seeing 100% growth month on month in Dash usage. Right. And so that's one example. Another is with remittances. We're focused on the Latin America corridor. We're signing up a number of different exchanges and businesses like chain retailers that will act as cash in and cash out points, leveraging the Dash network in the background. And it allows those participants to send money back and forth much less expensively than some of the more monopolistic traditional financial players that are in the remittances business.
Now, recently there's been some, I believe it's called FAFT, has come up with some almost guidance on potentially some chains having to know who the from and who the to sender are. Yeah. And maybe this could be seen as some of the other parts, the legacy system that's currently existing, trying to take control to some extent and impose, money services, transmission, regulation to some extent, and so that they have to play fair, because obviously you guys, you have obviously from a cryptocurrency perspective, have a much better and easier flow. There's no other means. What do you think about those changes they're trying to bring about?
Well, I think that there's a question of how much control can be asserted over these types of technologies. Because they are peer-to-peer in nature, it becomes very difficult to force every participant, literally every participant, to participate in something like that. So I think it's just unrealistic in terms of how far it can be taken. I certainly understand at major points of entry and exit into the traditional financial system why that would be needed, in similar fashion to cash coming in or out of that system, and having a desire to have an answer to, you're walking into my bank with $100,000 in cash, I need to know where that came from. And so I understand why there is a need for this type of regulation. I do believe that cryptocurrencies actually provide some advantages to those seeking to do that when it comes to being able to trace this in comparison to cash. But I think there's obvious limits there. And there's limits on what you can expect, say, a merchant to take on in terms of responsibility for that if they're selling $50 worth of goods.
So, but do you think this kind of I guess push for regulation, will this stop cryptocurrencies and their cross-border payments and what they can do?
No, I don't believe it will. Cryptocurrencies have unique attributes that no other payment method has. Full stop. If you believe that, there is a place for cryptocurrencies, no matter what, in a broader ecosystem of different payment techniques and value transfer techniques and things of that nature. And so I absolutely believe that there's a lot more growth out there, regardless of what happens with regulation. In some respects, regulation can open up certain participants to being able to participate in it. And we're talking mainly about financial institutions. I think there's a great deal of hesitance in the absence of clear regulation for these participants that have a large legacy business to start participating in cryptocurrencies, and it can actually unlock that. And so I don't think that it's as negative as a lot of people perceive for the continued growth and for financial freedom. I believe that this technology at the end of the day is empowering, and therefore I think it will help support individual freedoms no matter what happens with regulations.
Now, you obviously privacy is a big topic right now, and there are some, I guess, governments that are concerned with privacy coins. You guys have a privacy feature to some extent. Where do you think privacy and cryptocurrencies, I guess, is going?
Well, I think there's a growing recognition on the part of regulators, and I've seen this from the New York BitLicense statements, that there is a genuine need for privacy. There are genuine use cases that extend well beyond I'm doing something wrong, where privacy is a needed attribute. I think what regulators want and what they are looking for is two things. One, can I recognize when a privacy feature has been used? If I'm able to do that, I'm able to appropriately risk score that transaction and make a decision about how I want to treat that. So they want to be able to see it, and the second thing is I think they want to be able to, if it's completely shielded,
yes,
be able to have the financial institutions involved at either end of that transaction have a view key into what's happening. In the case of Dash, actually all of our privacy transactions are actually fully transparent on the blockchain.
Okay.
We use a form of coin join that's used with Bitcoin. And so the ledger itself is fully transparent. It can be audited, it can be analyzed, and it can be recognized when it's been used and therefore appropriately risk scored. And so I think you need to obviously fall on the side of regulation that's going to allow the use cases that you want to serve to be served. But there's always going to be a need for privacy, and I think there needs to be a recognition that there are going to be some use cases where more privacy is needed, some where less is, and I think regulators are going to have to find a way to clarify that and deal with it.
Okay. Now, there's a lot of debate, I guess, between privacy and being anonymous.
Yeah,
they're very different.
Yes.
Do you believe that I guess cryptocurrencies should be able to allow you to be anonymous?
I think that there are obviously risks and benefits associated with any degree of privacy, right? If you go completely to the side of anonymity, it runs the risk of enabling bad actors to act with impunity and just, fund terrorist organizations or do whatever. And I think that there are ways of dealing with that, but there's no easy answers here, right? Yeah. It's hard to argue that someone doesn't have a right to transact anonymously with cryptocurrencies when they can already do it with cash. And I think that there's law enforcement methods that could be used. I'm not an expert on this, right? And I don't pretend to be. But I know that there's a variety of different things that have to come together to kind of balance the needs of individuals with the needs of society. And I don't know where the right answer is. I don't think anyone does.
Now, you guys have a new fund coming out. Tell us about it and what does it do?
So this is really exciting. It's an investment fund called Dash Investment Foundation. And we believe that it's the world's first ownerless and memberless investment fund. There's a new entity type in Cayman Islands, and I don't know the full term. I don't have it memorized, but it's long. It's basically an entity that is formed under guarantee and after formation. And what it means is essentially a single member foundation is formed, and that member relinquishes their membership to that foundation. And it now has no owners and no members whatsoever. In our case, the foundation will be run under its charter, and it will be overseen by a statutory role called a supervisor that's elected by the Dash network itself. And so, in essence, it is an investment fund that is controlled by the network, but doesn't have any direct owners. And that's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. Yeah. And they'll be chartered with improving the Dash ecosystem. And that can be done in one of two ways. Either by investing in businesses that are building something on the Dash network, creating a new capability like a payroll services company or something that utilizes Dash. It can also be through investing in the stock market and making a profit, right? And generating a profit for the network itself. One of the hairy issues we dealt with was, how do you make a distribution to all of these anonymous people? We don't know who owns Dash. And so there were two ways to do it. Either collect all of their KYC, AML information and make direct distributions, but we figured out a way to actually not make a distribution at all. And that is, with the profits, if the foundation so chooses, it can buy Dash with it and destroy it. And in so doing, it acts a lot like a stock buyback. It helps increase the scarcity of Dash and therefore the value of Dash. And all Dash holders would benefit from that purchasing pressure. It also makes Dash the first cryptocurrency that is actually backed by something that's not like tied to gold or to the US dollar or something like that. It's backed by its own network growth and maturity. And so it's really interesting what we've managed to put together, and I think it's going to have a huge impact for us, because the way the Dash system works is a portion of our block reward is set aside for what's called our proposal system. That's where Dash Core Group and all the other entities that are servicing the Dash network get their funding. We put proposals up to the network, and if the network approves it, we receive those funds. In the past, that's always been a grant. There's been no way for the network to take ownership stake in the businesses it's investing in or the integrations it pays for or anything. Now it opens up new solution space where the network can now make an investment in our partners and take equity ownership in the businesses that we support.
Okay. And so, I guess, how does this, relate to the coin? Like, how does this, I guess you talked about, burning, you talked about, buying the coin, and I guess, how does the voting work?
So each masternode that operates on our network gets one vote. And in the proposal system, anyone can put a proposal up to the network, and then the network casts votes. The highest ranking proposals pay out first. And so that's how it's worked in the past. With the fund, they can now request funding to go invest in the Dash ecosystem, or a proposal owner can put up a proposal that says, I will issue 10% equity in my company if you fund me $100,000. And so there's a couple different ways it can work, but now there's basically new solution space there where the network can start allocating those proposal funds for the benefit of the foundation and the network.
It's almost like Dash is becoming a bit like a share, or...
Yeah, in some respects, it's a share in a payment network.
Yeah.
Almost,
Yeah.
but not really.
Yeah.
So the other aspect of this is that the supervisors themselves are elected by those masternode owners or operators. And so there's 6 supervisors. They're all elected through this process in an annual cycle. And that allows the fund itself to be overseen by representatives of the network.
Okay. We've got to wrap it up here, but appreciate you coming out and having a chat with us.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. We do have one final question. It's not financial advice, but we ask everyone, what do you think the price of Bitcoin will be at the end of this year? It's New Year's Eve. We've obviously got a lot of, we've got a montage that we sort of stitched together, giving you, in US dollars, you don't have to answer, it's not financial advice. Some people answer with many, it's 5,000 M&Ms or whatever it may be. But, it's your chance. Interested in what your view might be.
Well, I rarely put out price predictions, but I do feel like there is a shift that's occurring right now that is going to introduce a lot of new, large institutional players into this space. And I think the place where they're all going to start is Bitcoin. And so I think that Bitcoin will finish the year higher than last year. I think it'll be, above the 15,000 to 18,000 range.
Okay, brilliant. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Daily Exchange. Guys, you can follow, obviously, Dash. You know where to check that out. I'm assuming you've got it, obviously, on the website and Twitter. We'll see you guys later. Yeah.